Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first podcast episode of Reinvent and Rediscover, where I teach you how to find yourself and how to find your place in the world and kind of break your walls down and start all over. So, this first episode, I really want to talk about how getting out of your comfort zone will change your life. Over the past year and a half, I have made quite the commitment to myself to be as uncomfortable as possible, as much of the time as I can. And it truly has changed my life and opened up so many doors for me. And I kind of want to dive into that because I feel like a lot of people, especially since COVID happened and a lot of things moved online and a lot of people work from home, and kind of the nature of how we interact has completely transformed. And I think a lot of people have slipped into comfort very easily with being isolated and stay in their own space and communicate with the same people every day and not really challenge themselves like I feel like we used to. So, a little bit of context, I guess, about my life. A year and a half ago, I went through quite a event in my life, I guess I should say, and I knew it was time for me to change something. I kind of hit rock bottom, and I was like, well, there's nowhere to go but up. There's literally nowhere to go from here. I need to start over. I need to break everything down and just completely change my life. Because I came to the realization that if I didn't do something to change my life, that I was going to be quite miserable. And to be honest, I probably would not even be here. So I spent some time living back at home with my family and decided that I wanted to go for my dream job and move 13 hours away from home, start completely from scratch, and create a whole new life for myself. And since I've moved 13 hours from home, I now live in New Jersey. And before I moved here, oops, sorry, I hit the mic. Before I moved here, I honestly knew nothing about this state. And quite frankly, I didn't have the best views on what I had heard about New Jersey. I showed up here with a suitcase and had absolutely no plan on where I was going to live, how I was going to get by, or if I was going to make this place a home. And I remember I showed up at the Newark airport with one suitcase, and I had a hotel for about 5 days due to my job. And beyond that, I had no idea what I was going to do. I didn't bring my car here to begin with. And I knew that I was just going to have to figure it out. And because of that, I experienced a great amount of stress in a short amount of time. And I found myself crying in the airport because I was like, I have nowhere to stay once that hotel stay ended. And I just had to simply figure it out. I stayed on couches and kind of bounced around some work trips and things, and decided to stay in an apartment with some other people, some other flight attendants, and have that be a temporary situation. But I knew while I was staying there for the month that I needed to figure out where I was actually going to be living and how I was going to make New Jersey feel like my new home. And I kind of want to talk about that level of discomfort and how I felt like, oh my gosh, this is not my home. I feel so uncomfortable. I don't know anyone here. I can't just drive back to my parents' house. Like, I have to provide for myself. I have to figure it out myself. And all of the weight is on my shoulders now. And kind of going through that thought process and how I was able to handle it, and now feel like I can really handle anything. So I feel like that level of discomfort and unfamiliarity completely transformed the way that I viewed the world. I do think there are some people in life that choose comfort. They stay in their hometown their entire life. They live, on paper, a pretty traditional life, and they are content with that. And growing up, contentment always scared me quite a lot because I was very fearful that I would fall into a hole and be trapped in the walls that I built for myself of a standard in the box life. So I made the decision to just uproot everything, start my dream career as a flight attendant, and move up north. And I think a lot of people were asking me, like, how did you decide to actually move away from home and just show up in a new state? And what I will say to that is, you will know when it's time to completely change your life. When you start feeling that itch and you feel like it's really time to go, and you're constantly thinking about how stuck you feel and how stagnant you feel and how there hasn't been any change in your life, you know it's time to get up and go. I knew it was time to get up and go. I had no option. There was nothing left for me back in Kentucky, in my opinion. And it was time for me to go. I started quickly making connections and networking with people and trying to figure out what to do because I really only had myself. And when push came to shove, 2 days before I had to move out of that apartment, I found the apartment I live in now and made the decision to live alone for my very first time, which brought up a whole other can of worms and other realizations and other levels of discomfort that I will probably talk about in another episode. But here I just want to talk about that initial discomfort and leaving home behind and everything that I knew and held close to my heart. And a lot of people fear, like, if I move away from home, what about my friends that I had? Or what about my routines and my favorite grocery store, my favorite coffee shop that I'm a local at? Or, how will I figure it out in a new place where I'm completely unfamiliar? And I think when you want a challenging life for yourself and you have dreams that are so big, you will stop at nothing but to go out and chase it. And I think if you are constantly living in that state of fear and you're constantly allowing yourself to be boxed in and you're constantly allowing yourself to feel stuck, you will be in that mindset forever. You will always be a victim to your own life, and you will always be stuck in the same position you were until you make a decision to change your life and be uncomfortable. Growing up, I always heard the phrase that growth is lying in your discomfort. And I've always been someone, I constantly want to grow as an individual and learn new things about myself and the world. And I just wanted to be uncomfortable. It was a hard decision for me to kind of pull the trigger and do it, because I had spent 23 years of my life living in Kentucky. I had friends there, I had family, and I never saw myself as capable. And I want to touch on that because a lot of people have that mentality of like, oh, when this changes, I'll be good enough. Or when this event in my life happens, I'll be able to do X, Y, and Z. And you kind of fall in that idea that you are not capable of achieving your dream. And you kind of think of your dream as something that's untouchable and unfathomable and something that's off in the far distance that, maybe one day. And that maybe one day that you tell yourself over and over can last your entire lifetime. People will die and say they never achieved the thing they spent their entire life thinking about doing. Because that maybe one day mindset will keep you where you are for the rest of your life until you say, you know what, screw it. I'm doing it. I don't care. I don't care how hard it is. I have to do this for myself and I have to figure it out, because a lot of people will say, well, what if it doesn't work out? That's the biggest thing is, well, what if it doesn't work out? Okay, and so what? You fall on your face. You realize it didn't work out, but now now that you know it didn't work out, you're not going to keep saying what if, because you went out, you tried it. Okay, so what? It didn't work for you. Now you know. Now you're not going to be living and stuck in that idea of what if, what if, what if, what if. You don't want to spend your entire life thinking about what if. And that's why you need to learn to be okay with being uncomfortable. If you're not okay with being uncomfortable, I challenge you to find ways to start being uncomfortable more often. I've found that I have become so much more of a confident person. I trust myself a lot more. I'm able to connect with others a lot easier. And I trust myself to step up to the plate when it's time, because I've learned to become friends with discomfort. And a lot of times, like, I was the kid in class who never raised my hand. I didn't want to speak up. I really never wanted to challenge the general flow, the general ideas. I just kind of wanted to skate by and fit in, etc. And at some point, I was like, no, I want to live a very extraordinary life. And the life that I want to live is on the other side of my fear, the other side of my discomfort. So when people will ask me, you know, what if it doesn't work out? Okay, then you can always go back to where you were. I mean, maybe that's not always the case. You know, maybe I'm being a little bit tone deaf in that regard. But if something doesn't work out, then just go back. That's like people who are like, oh, well, what if I start trying this new thing and I don't even end up liking it? Okay, then stop doing it. Go back to what you were doing before. What if I move jobs and I don't like the new job? Okay, go back. See if you can get your old job back. Try something else. Or if I moved all the way up to New Jersey, started a new job, and I decided that, okay, this doesn't work for me, or I got fired, or I end up not liking it, or whatever. Okay, well, now I'm in New Jersey. Figure it out. Or break my lease, move back to Kentucky, move back in with my parents' house. Okay, well, I tried it. Now I'm not thinking my whole life about how I never went for my dream career and I never up and moved 13 hours away from home. Now I at least know. So that was something I just never wanted to think, what if, what if, what if. So I started just embracing the discomfort. And to be honest, sometimes I would break down. And I still do every now and then. I've been here for a little over 6 months now. And it is hard. It's not easy to be uncomfortable. People don't like to be uncomfortable. That's why there's so many people stuck in their own habits and ways of living. People don't like to be uncomfortable. They don't like to embrace change. And that's why it's important to do it. That's why it's so important to embrace that feeling of discomfort. So I think I was not scared of it because I wanted to see what was on the other side. I wanted to see the type of person I could become if I fully embraced discomfort and changed my life. Because now, even if I decided to move back to Kentucky, or, this job doesn't work out for me or whatever, I am a changed person because I decided to say screw it and get up and move. I'm a completely different person than I was when I showed up at the Newark airport with a suitcase and no accommodations because of the discomfort I went through. And I want to talk about, maybe some small things in your day-to-day that are uncomfortable that can start showing you how to embrace the discomfort. Because I think maybe, not everyone has an opportunity to start a new career, move away from home, and start all over. I was in a position where I had graduated college. I was already kind of living at home after college for a little while, single. I didn't have any ties. I was able to up and move. But let's just talk about some of the simple ways that you can embrace discomfort in your day-to-day life so that you can become a confident, more, just a better version of yourself, I guess I should say. For one thing that I've been thinking about recently is that when I go out to eat, right? Say you order, a burger and fries, and you want your burger well done, and it doesn't come out well done, and you're sitting at the table and you're like, oh my gosh, like it's only, it's cooked medium and I really don't want to eat this. Like I'm scared of pink meat and I don't want to eat it. I don't know what to do. And you're just sitting there miserable because you're too uncomfortable to ask your server if they can cook you a new one. And you're sitting there miserable the whole time, and everyone at the dinner table is looking at you like, just say something. Just say something. Just say something. And you're like, oh no, it's fine. Like, I don't want to bother them. I'm uncomfortable. Like, I don't want to make it a big deal. But now you're making it a big deal because you're trying not to make it a big deal. And now everyone's looking at you, wondering why you don't just like tell them that it's not cooked the way that you asked for. So I want to talk about this because we need to normalize saying that we didn't get what we asked for. And a year ago today, I would have been the person sitting at that table saying, oh, don't worry about it. I'm just not going to say anything. I'll just eat it. No big deal. And I would just sit there miserable. But today, if you sat me down at that table, I don't care who I'm sitting with at the table. If I'm not unsure, if I don't like what I got or it's not what I got, of course I'm going to politely tell the server like, hey, I actually wanted my burger well done. Is there any way that you all could like remake this for me? Like, I'm so sorry. And of course I would be super nice and like, gracious about the situation, but I will 9 times out of 10 send something back, or even at a coffee shop, hey, could you please put some more almond milk in this? Or, hey, I don't think this was, this is too sweet, or I don't think this was the right drink. And I will always be super nice about it, but I'm the type of person now, I'm not afraid to say something. And in a way, that's kind of standing up for yourself in a small way. And I want you to think about that, because you're more likely, I bet you, if you're one of those people who won't say something about the meal that you ordered or the coffee drink that you ordered, you're more likely to stand up for your little sister, your friend. Oh, don't worry, I'll tell the server for you, because you're taking the embarrassment off it being you. Oh, I'll do it for you. But how often do you stand up for yourself? How often, if somebody says something that offends your friend and you're quick to jump in and say, oh no, like, don't say that, that's my best friend. Don't say that, that's my sister. Whoa, watch how you speak to her. Whoa, like, cut that out. That's disrespectful. How often would you do that for yourself? How often are you willing to make the decision for yourself that the discomfort and the awkwardness is worth the outcome? Because you're more likely to do that for someone else because maybe you're a people pleaser and somebody else's happiness matters a lot to you. But how about you start doing that for yourself in small ways? And that's just one example. But another thing I want to talk about is just talking to people that you don't know and communicating with others. I have changed the way that I communicate with others over the past year, and that is greatly due to the job and my career. It's taught me that I have to communicate and have conversations with people I've never met before every single day, and I'm constantly working with new people, meeting new people from all over the world, and it has truly transformed the way that I conversate and the way that I get to know others. I was the type of person who would be so anxious all the time to have conversations with people I don't know that well, and I'd be squirming in my seat and I don't know what to say, and I'm really uncomfortable. I'm feeling awkward. I'm feeling very uncomfortable. I want to go home. I want to hide. I'm freaking out. I don't know how to talk to people. And I hated that about myself. Don't get me wrong, I still get anxious. It's normal. You can't always control, that anxious feeling that you might have. But it used to be really bad, and to the point where I would wait until someone is talking to me. I would wait until people are asking questions to me instead of the flip side. And I wanted to challenge myself in taking the first step, taking the initiative, trying to get to know someone else first, and starting that conversation first, because I think that is a huge thing to learn, is how to communicate with people, how to get to know someone, how to network and connect with others, and be the initiator. Embrace the discomfort. I'm telling you right now, it will change your life. Nowadays, when I meet a new crew or, some new coworkers, I start asking them the questions first. I'll introduce myself, hi, how long have you been flying for? The generic questions like, oh, do you live here? You commute, oh, you don't live here. Where do you commute in from? I start asking the questions first because I used to think, oh, well, I'll wait for them to get to know me because maybe they won't want to talk and I'm bugging them. But you know what? That level of anxiousness I was feeling when I would shelter inwards and not say anything was actually being perceived as me showing no interest in others unintentionally. So when I was kind of sheltering inwards and I wasn't making the effort or taking the initiative, a lot of people actually thought I was rude and standoffish. And every time I got that comment, because it had happened a handful of times, I was always taken aback. I was like, me? You think I'm standoffish? And it always really just took me aback. I was so surprised to hear that a little anxious me, little quiet, reserved me was coming off as rude. And that was quite a reality check because I was thinking, why do I not ever make the effort? Because I care about other people. I want to hear about other people. I'm just too uncomfortable and I don't know how to ask the questions and how to get to know someone and how to start these conversations. I've never met you. I don't know you. I don't know what's going on, how to, get this ball rolling. And I realized from that point forward that sometimes when you're sitting there in your little corner and you're uncomfortable, you're being perceived a certain way, and maybe you don't care, whatever, but you're being painted in a light that you just don't care. You know, when you walk in a room or you go to a party or an event and there's that person who's talking to everyone, they're coming across as confident, they're interested, they remember something about you, and, you know, they bring it up in conversation, they're asking you questions, they want to know, and you're like, that is a cool person right there. They care about others, they are taking the initiative, they look confident, they know what they're doing. I want to be friends with them. I wanted to be more like that person in the room. So I made the effort to be more uncomfortable, and it felt so uncomfortable and awkward. I know I keep saying uncomfortable and awkward, but seriously, it felt so far, it felt so foreign to me to take that initiative in my own hands, because that's just the way I was raised. Like, I kind of just didn't really speak unless I was spoken to. And I didn't want to be that person at all. I wanted to be confident and be able to walk into any room and make connections and speak to people and not have an issue. So, all of that goes to say that in your day-to-day life, you come across so many people, or the average person does. Everyone's circumstance may be different, but the average person comes across quite a lot of people just living your day-to-day life. Because if you think about it, if you're considering just a 9 to 5 job, just the regular average Joe, a day in his life. So someone wakes up, they get ready for work. At work, maybe you work at a bank. Okay. So you have all your coworkers that you come into contact with, and then all of the people who come into the bank throughout the day. And then after work, say you stop at the grocery store, and now you run into a couple different workers, cashiers. You run into a stranger who's also trying to pick out a good watermelon. And then you drop your receipt on the way out the door, and that stranger picks up the receipt for you. You just say, thanks, nod. You have your AirPods in, you keep walking, you keep moving, and then you stop for gas, and now you're talking to the clerk, and you just say, $20 unleaded please on number 6, and then you take your receipt, you leave, and all your conversations are the most base level, transactional, keyword transactional, and you go home and you continue on with your day. Think about all of those opportunities for connection that I just mentioned. There are opportunities for connection all around you. It's honestly limitless. If you actually see the world as limitless, it will change your perspective. Because all of those people you came into contact with might have a story or a tidbit of information or something that will benefit you, or maybe you have something to benefit them and you don't even know it yet. Think about a time where a stranger really impacted you. Like, for example, this has been kind of on my heart the past few days. I went into Trader Joe's the other day and I was kind of feeling in a little bit of a funk, but I wanted to go in and buy myself flowers and a couple things to make like a small like charcuterie board or like a cheese plate. And I was feeling really overwhelmed, I guess, and there was a lot of people in there. You know how Trader Joe's is. Sometimes it can be really like busy. And I'm walking through the store and I'm kind of like stuck in between these two people's carts, and like people are trying to go all sorts of directions. I feel like I'm in the way. So I like apologized to this mom and her little girl. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, you know, I'm trying to get through here. Sorry about that. And they could tell, I guess, I was just a little bit, I don't know. I just wasn't in the right headspace. And the little girl looks at me and she said, your hair is so beautiful. And my heart melted because here I was, thought I was being a burden to them, annoying them. And even this little girl was practicing stepping outside of her comfort zone to compliment a stranger. And it really brightened my day. It changed my mood. And I'm still thinking about that a few days later. So think about that in your day-to-day life, how you can make that small amount of discomfort you may feel change someone's outlook on their whole day or even week. All of those people you come into contact with on a day-to-day basis, all of those strangers you pass by, there's opportunities for connection everywhere. It's like earlier I saw this girl in the airport. She was wearing a tiara and she was a worker. And I'm just thinking about this now because I was like, I really had the thought to go up to her and be like, oh my gosh, your tiara is so cute. Like, you know, is it your birthday? Or I wanted to like ask her about it because I was curious. And I decided not to. Really, honestly, because I just wanted to go home. But even that small opportunity for connection, there's so many throughout the day, and not even necessarily like complimenting someone, but like showing interest in someone else's life. Like if you're at the grocery store and you see someone trying to pick out some cookies or something, and you kind of pop in and you're like, ooh, I really like these ones, and blah, blah, blah. And now all of a sudden you're having a conversation about how when you were a child, your mom always bought you these cookies and it was like a sentimental moment for you. And now you're connecting with a stranger and you made an impact on their day. It might have been uncomfortable for you to step in and say something, but just think about that from your everyday life, the opportunities that you have to connect with others if you step outside of your comfort zone and decide that you want to be uncomfortable for even just a few minutes or even just a few seconds. And I have changed that about myself. Like I said, taking more interest in other people's lives. One last thing I want to talk about in this episode is, okay, now that I'm really uncomfortable all the time, how do I find a piece of comfort? And how do I reel it in and feel grounded and feel secure? And I want to talk about this because when I first decided to live alone and make the leap, and, you know, I'm living here 13 hours away from home, and I'm like, I'm uncomfortable all of the time because I go to a grocery store and I still don't know which aisle the cans of tuna are in, or I don't know which gas station is the best or which one I should go to. I'm uncomfortable all the time. Everywhere I go, I know nobody. So I experience a great level of discomfort on my day-to-day life every single day. And I don't have like a significant other to come home to, or a family member, a best friend to go hang out with. And that is very, very, very hard. I'm not going to lie to you. That's the hardest part. It's just really having no one or nothing here. And you're like, holy crap, what did I get myself into? I need a security blanket literally ASAP. Like I need something to swaddle me up and make me feel comfortable because I'm freaking out. And I will say that FaceTimes and calls and, you know, just catching up with people I love has done so much for me. Bringing that comfort, bringing a sense of home here has made me feel astronomically better. And you have to find a way to bring something comfortable to you into the discomfort. Okay? So, for me, like I said, I call my friends a lot, call my mom a lot. I'm always talking on the phone. I'm bringing comfort here. Another thing you can do is cook a comfort meal, cook something that reminds you of home. Having something from home always near me keeps me grounded and keeps me in my comfort to some degree. And also, honestly, I trust myself so much now that I can always rely on myself. And I truly think if you don't learn how to rely on yourself, then you'll continue to be uncomfortable all the time. So I think once you start embracing discomfort, the next thing really is to learn how to rely on yourself. Because now that maybe you're in a new city, starting a new career, like I did, and you're like, holy crap, what did I do? Like, you've never had to rely on just yourself. You've never had to be independent before. You've never been in this situation before, and you're super uncomfortable. Really, the next thing is to learn how to rely on yourself and how to trust that you will do what you say you're going to do and that it will be okay. Because people telling me like, oh, it's going to be fine, you'll get it figured out, was never helpful to me, because I was like, you're not here, you're not in my shoes. How do you, like, that's just such a run-of-the-mill answer. You're going to be fine, you'll figure it out. Don't worry, you're fine. But truly, I bring comfort to myself now. I comfort myself. And there's nothing like calling my friends or having something, bring me external comfort. But I will say I lean on myself a lot. And it's the best feeling in the world, because I can provide myself the sense of comfort that I'm not getting from anywhere else. And that's really important, because if you are going to make that huge leap, or you are going to step outside of the bounds of comfort, and you're going to, pull the trigger on it, you're going to do it, you have to learn how to rely on yourself, or you're going to fall flat on your face, and you're going to continue to be uncomfortable, and you're probably going to go back to your own ways, because you never learned how to step up to the plate. You made the jump, but you didn't actually step up to the plate, and now, holy crap. So I will talk about that in another episode, about, learning to rely on yourself and doing the things that you say that you will do. But I just want to say, if you're living in a world of discomfort right now and you're starting to freak out because you haven't felt comfort in a long time, you need to find a way to cultivate that comfort for yourself. And you need to find a way to bring external comfort to yourself, to your life. Find something that feels familiar to you. That's like sometimes food provides quite a lot of, comfort or feeling of nostalgia for people. Anytime I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm really missing home, there's certain meals, or maybe like something I have back home that I can get here that makes me feel like I'm at home again and I'm comfortable again. And I do cook most of my meals for myself, so I don't really like go out and get food or anything like that. But maybe something that, you go a place that feels familiar, or you eat something that you have back at home, and you bring that external comfort in until you learn how to bring the comfort to yourself. So I hope you enjoyed this first episode. I hope it inspired you to take some more little leaps of faith in your day-to-day and start stepping outside of your own bounds and seeing what you are capable of and testing yourself, learning yourself, because this is all about reinventing and rediscovering yourself and who you are. And we're on this journey together. So I hope you were able to understand kind of a little bit of where I'm coming from and how I was able to be a more confident woman today and how I embrace discomfort. All right, see you next time.